The twin suns of Zarya shone across the golden spires of the capital city, Valinthor. Its towers glimmered like polished gems, and fleets of crystal ships drifted through the violet skies. The city was alive with songs of energy, trade, and pride. For centuries, the Zaryan Empire had called itself the heart of the galaxy. Their warriors were feared. Their knowledge was ancient. Their empire had never bowed to any other race. But today, something unusual had shaken their pride: a marriage. The great palace of Valen. Tar was filled with guests from every known world. The grand hall, carved from luminous stone, was packed with nobles, soldiers, and diplomats. They had all come to see the royal wedding between Princess Lysera of Zarya and Ethan Cole, a human from the planet Earth. The alliance between Zarya and Earth had been born out of necessity, not love. Decades of border skirmishes with the Vorth Dominion had drained the Empire's strength. The humans, though newcomers to galactic politics, had something the Zarians needed: trade, technology, and a growing influence among other races. The wedding was meant to symbolize peace, but many Zarians whispered among themselves that their proud princess had been given to a lesser creature. As Lysera stood before the altar, her silver gown flowing like water, she looked at her new husband for the first time. Ethan was tall but not imposing. His skin was pale compared to Zarian gold, and his dark hair looked strange under the palace lights. His eyes, gray like storm clouds, met hers without fear, but without pride either. Lysera studied him carefully. No shimmering scales. No telepathic glow. No wings or natural armor. He looked so fragile that she wondered how humans survived their own planet. He smiled gently and bowed. "It's an honor, Princess Lysera," he said softly. His voice was calm, steady, and polite. She gave a short nod. "You may rise, human." The ceremony continued. The Emperor declared their union as a sign of peace and future cooperation. Cheers echoed through the hall. But not all joined in. Many Zarian generals looked away, their expressions cold. After the ceremony, Lysera's friend, Captain Rethan Vire, leaned close and whispered, "He looks harmless. Are you sure he's not just a servant dressed as a husband?" Lysera tried not to smile. "He is different. But if this alliance brings peace, I will play my part." She told herself that this marriage was duty. It's nothing more. Days turned into weeks. Ethan adjusted to Palace's life with quiet grace. He was respectful to everyone, never raised his voice, and spent most of his time reading or walking through the palace gardens. He seemed curious about everything Zaryan: architecture, culture, even their history of warfare. Lysera noticed that he listened more than he spoke. When court officials discussed trade routes or military movements, Ethan would simply observe, his eyes calm and thoughtful. Sometimes she caught him studying the Empire's fleet data on holographic displays. Once, she asked him, "Do you understand any of that?" He looked up from the glowing screen and smiled. "A little. I'm trying to learn how your people defend their worlds. It's fascinating." She chuckled. "You speak as if humans have fleets that can match ours." Ethan only replied, "Not yet." That small answer lingered in her mind for days. The palace life went on. Lysera performed her royal duties while Ethan quietly blended into the background. He helped her with diplomatic reports, taught her some Earth languages, and often cooked small human dishes for her, simple meals that tasted surprisingly comforting. He never boasted, never demanded attention. At night, when Lysera returned to her private quarters, she sometimes found him on the balcony, staring at the stars. His expression was always the same, peaceful but distant, as if he was remembering another world. One evening, she asked him, "Do you miss Earth?" Ethan turned slightly and nodded. "Yes, but not for the reasons you think. I miss the feeling of home, the struggle, the rain, the sound of the wind through old cities. Humans grew strong there, not because the world was kind, but because it wasn't." Lysera tilted her head. "What do you mean?" He looked at her with those calm gray eyes. "Earth is a dangerous place, Princess. Our skies burn, our seas rage, our lands quake, yet we live." We adapt. Every day on Earth is a test of survival. That's how humanity learned to endure. She smiled gently. That sounds poetic, but also sad. Ethan laughed softly. Maybe both. For the first time, Lysera felt something unexpected: curiosity. Weeks passed peacefully until rumors spread through the Empire. Reports came of strange ships moving beyond the border, ships with the mark of the Vorth Dominion. The Zarian Council grew restless. The Emperor ordered an emergency session. That night, Lysera was invited to the council hall. She expected Ethan to stay behind, but to her surprise, he followed quietly. As the Emperor and his generals discussed the threat, Ethan stood in the corner, silent. When one of the generals noticed him, he frowned. Why is the human here? This is a matter of defense, not diplomacy. Lysera tried to defend him. He is my husband. He should, but Ethan raised a hand gently. It's all right, princess. I'm just listening. The generals ignored him and continued. Their plans were confident but predictable. Reinforce border fleets, activate defense satellites, and send warnings to nearby systems. Ethan's expression didn't change, but his eyes seemed to see something beyond the discussion. Later that night, Lysera found him in the palace archives, a restricted area where military and historical data were stored. What are you doing here? She demanded. He looked up, calm as always. Reading. Your archives are impressive. You shouldn't be here. These files are for Zarian eyes only. I know, he said simply. But your guards didn't stop me. Lysera crossed her arms. You think this is a game, human? Ethan sighed softly and stepped closer. No, princess. But you should know something. Your empire's enemies have been studying you for years. The Vorth know your strategies. They know your weaknesses. They know you expect open war. But they don't plan to fight that way. Lysera blinked. How do you know that? He smiled faintly. Because that's what humans would do. She frowned, trying to understand. You speak as if you were a strategist. Ethan turned back to the glowing data and said quietly, I've seen wars, Lysera, and I've seen what happens to those who believe they can never lose. There was something in his tone, not arrogance, but experience. Something in his eyes that made her chest tighten with unease. The next morning, the Empire trembled. Alarms echoed through the capital. The skies above Valinthor darkened as hundreds of defense ships launched into orbit. The Vorth Dominion had entered Zarian space. Their fleet was massive, larger than anything the Zarians had seen in a century. The Emperor called for immediate mobilization. Citizens were ordered to take shelter. Panic spread across the city. Lysera rushed to the palace command center. Ethan was already there, watching the chaos unfold on the main holographic display. She grabbed his arm. You knew this was coming, didn't you? Ethan's eyes stayed on the map. I suspected. The signs were there. Then why didn't you warn us? I did, he said softly. But no one would have believed me. The Emperor stormed into the room surrounded by guards. His voice thundered. Get the human out of here. This is no place for him. Ethan bowed slightly and turned to leave. But before he did, he looked over his shoulder and said, If you want to survive this, don't engage their main fleet directly. They're baiting you. Everyone stared. The Emperor shouted, You dare to give orders in my presence. But before Ethan could respond, a young officer screamed, Your Majesty, new readings. Unknown signals approaching from hyperspace? Everyone turned toward the screen. Dozens of massive signatures appeared, ships too fast, too stealthy to belong to any known empire. The officer gasped. They bear human codes. Lysera's heart pounded. She turned to Ethan. He stood very still, his expression unreadable. She whispered, Ethan, what did you do? Ethan's calm voice broke the silence. I didn't do anything, princess. But perhaps Earth finally decided to stop pretending to be harmless. Outside the palace, the sky flared with light as the new fleet arrived. Sleek black ships, unlike any Zarian design, appeared in formation. Their hulls shimmered with adaptive energy fields. Their weapons silent but ready. The galaxy's oldest empire watched as humanity revealed a power it had never shown before, and for the first time, Princess Lysera looked at her quiet human husband and felt something she had never felt around anyone before. Not pity, not amusement, but fear and wonder. The sky above Valanthor burned with streaks of light as the Vorth Dominion fleet advanced. Thousands of alien warships, each bristling with weapons and shields, approached like an unstoppable storm. Citizens huddled in shelters, their faces pale, hearts pounding with fear. The Zarian Empire had never faced an enemy so close to its capital. Inside the palace, Princess Lysera paced nervously. Her silver gown shimmered under the emergency lights. The command center was alive with alarms, holograms, and panicked voices. Despite the chaos, her human husband, Ethan Cole, stood silently near the back of the room, observing the maps and fleet data with calm precision. Lysera clenched her fists. "Ethan, what are we going to do? The Emperor? He doesn't even want to listen to you." Ethan didn't answer immediately. He simply moved closer to the display, touching a glowing hologram that represented the incoming Vorth fleet. "Listen carefully, Lysera," he said, his voice calm, almost soothing. "The Vorth are bold. They think we are weak, but they are predictable. If we fight them head-on, they'll destroy everything. We need strategy." Lysera blinked. "Strategy? You mean like your humans would fight?" Ethan nodded. "Exactly. Humans survive in the harshest conditions. We are patient, adaptable, and resourceful. Sometimes the quietest person can be the most dangerous." She frowned. "You make it sound so easy," gave a small, serious smile. "It isn't easy, but it works." Meanwhile, outside the palace, the first clash began. Zarian fleets moved to intercept the Vorth advance, firing energy beams and missiles. The Vorth responded with deadly precision, their attacks cutting through the sky like lightning. Explosions erupted across the capital's orbital shields. The Emperor watched from his throne, his face pale with rage and fear. "Why haven't we destroyed them already?" he shouted.
"Why do we fail?"
Ethan remained silent, studying the holograms. Then he turned toward Lysera. "Princess, I need you to trust me. If you can relay my instructions to the fleet commanders, we might still have a chance." Lysera hesitated. For weeks she had thought of Ethan as quiet, harmless, almost fragile. But something in his tone, the calm certainty behind his words, made her pause. I will do it," she said, determination rising in her chest. Ethan's plan was unusual. Instead of engaging the Vorth fleet directly, he instructed the Zarian commanders to split into small, agile groups and feign retreat. The Vorth, overconfident in their size and power, would pursue. This tactic went against Zarian tradition. Their warriors believed strength came from numbers and direct attack, not cunning or patience. "You expect them to fall for this?" one general asked, skeptical. Ethan's eyes met his. "Yes, pride is their weakness. They will chase what they think is easy prey. Then they'll be trapped." Reluctantly, the generals followed his instructions. The Zarian ships scattered, retreating in calculated patterns. The Vorth fleet advanced eagerly, unaware of the trap being set. Back in the palace, Lysera watched with tense anticipation. Every strike of energy, every explosion in the skies, felt like it was happening inside her chest. And yet, Ethan's calmness never wavered. His hands moved quickly across the holographic controls, calculating trajectories, predicting enemy moves, adjusting the fleet's positions in real time. "Princess," he said quietly, "if this works, it will not be a single battle. There are more fleets coming. We need to prepare for everything." Lysera nodded. "I trust you, Ethan, but you must be careful. They are strong and we are." She trailed off. Realizing how little she understood about her husband's capabilities, Ethan gave her a small, reassuring smile. "We are stronger than they know, and sometimes strength is quiet until it needs to be shown." As the Vorth ships followed the retreating Zarian fleets, they fell directly into the ambush. Hidden in the cloud layers and asteroid fields surrounding Valanthor were human stealth ships. Previously undetected by Zarian or Vorth sensors, they emerged suddenly, weapons blazing with precision, targeting key Vorth warships. The Vorth commanders were stunned. Their massive fleet formation began to break apart under the sudden coordinated strikes. Zarian sensors could barely keep up with the speed and accuracy of the human attacks. Lysera gasped. Those are humans? But how? Ethan's gray eyes reflected the glow of the battle. They'd been preparing for a long time, quietly, waiting for the right moment. The palace erupted with activity. Soldiers and officials rushed to report sightings of human ships moving through the clouds, cutting off enemy supply lines and disabling the Vorth attack fleet. Each strike was precise. No civilian areas harmed, no Zarian ships destroyed. Lysera felt her heart swell with awe. I thought humans were soft, she whispered to herself. Ethan's voice cut through her thoughts. Soft. That's what they want you to think. Humans survive because we adapt, not because we dominate. And when we choose to act, we are unstoppable. Hours passed and the battle intensified. The Vorth tried to regroup, but Ethan's strategy anticipated every move. He coordinated Zarian forces with the hidden human fleet, guiding the warships through asteroid belts, near magnetic storms, and along unpredictable flight paths. Each maneuver trapped the Vorth in deadly positions. Even the most experienced Zarian generals were amazed. This human. He thinks like none of us, muttered Captain Rethonvire, his eyes wide. He sees things we cannot. It's as if he can predict the future. Lysera watched her husband work. He was not shouting, not displaying any sign of aggression. Yet his presence commanded respect and inspired action. She realized then that all the whispers about humans being fragile were wrong. Her husband had been quiet, yes, but he had also been patient, observing, calculating, and now he was showing the true depth of his abilities. As night fell, the first wave of the Vorth fleet was routed. Their ships fled, some destroyed, others crippled. The Zarian Empire had survived the initial attack thanks to Ethan. The Emperor, pale and furious, finally confronted him. Human, you dare to manipulate my fleet without permission, he demanded, his voice trembling. Ethan turned calmly to face him. I did not manipulate, I guided. Your people are brave and strong, but sometimes bravery alone is not enough. Strategy, patience, and precision. That is what wins battles. The Emperor opened his mouth to reply, but stopped. The evidence was undeniable. The Vorth fleet had been defeated without unnecessary loss. Zarian citizens cheered from their shelters as their capital remained safe. Lysera stepped forward, her silver gown glowing under the dim emergency lights. Father, she said softly, he saved the city. He saved all of us. The Emperor's eyes flicked to Ethan. There was silence. Then he nodded slowly. Perhaps humans are stronger than we believed. That night the palace was filled with reports from every corner of the empire. Damage assessments, citizen safety reports, and enemy movements flooded the command center. Yet Ethan remained calm, guiding each action, coordinating repairs, and issuing orders for the next possible attack. Lysera followed him closely, amazed by his composure. She asked quietly, Ethan, how did you know all of this? How did you anticipate their every move? He smiled faintly, looking at the stars through the panoramic palace windows. Lysera, humans have survived in worlds far harsher than this one. Death, storms, starvation, war. We face it all and learn from it. Strategy is not just about weapons. It is about observation, adaptation, and patience. The Vorth Dominion may be strong, but they underestimate patience. Lysera felt a new respect, tinged with awe. The man she had once thought fragile was a master of strategy, a warrior of quiet strength. She realized then that she had been wrong to pity him. He was anything but harmless. As dawn approached, reports arrived of a second Vorth fleet moving at hyperspeed toward Zarian space. This fleet was larger, more experienced, and fully armed. Panic began to rise again among the Zurians. Lysera turned to Ethan. Another fleet. They're coming. Can we stop them? Ethan's eyes, calm as ever, met hers. We will, but we must act carefully. This time it will not be enough to defend. We must show them the true strength of humanity, not just tactics, but our resolve, our courage, and our ability to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Lysera felt a mixture of fear and pride. The man she had once underestimated was preparing to face a force far larger than anything Zarya had seen, and somehow, she believed he could succeed. Ethan looked at her with a faint smile. Stay close to me, princess. The next hours will test us all. Lysera nodded, determination filling her heart. For the first time, she felt she was not just a princess witnessing history. She was part of it. And the quiet human she had married was about to show the galaxy why humans were never to be underestimated. The twin suns of Zarya had barely risen when the Second Vorth Fleet appeared on the edge of the system. Thousands of warships, larger and faster than the first, emerged from hyperspace, their energy signatures lighting up the violet sky like firestorms. Panic swept across Valanthor. Citizens who had begun to feel relief after the first attack now fled again, seeking shelter in tunnels beneath the palace and in reinforced towers inside the palace. Princess Lysera stood at the command balcony, her eyes fixed on the holographic display of the incoming fleet. Her heart pounded, but her mind was sharp. Beside her, Ethan Cole, her human husband, stood calm, his gray eyes focused, every muscle relaxed, yet ready for action. Lysera felt a mixture of awe and fear. She had seen his quiet strength before, strategic brilliance that had routed the first Vorth fleet without significant loss. But this second wave was different. This fleet was larger, faster, and more experienced. Even the best Zaryan generals looked nervous. Ethan's voice broke her thoughts. Princess, we don't just defend this time. We strike, and we strike smart. Strike against them? They're massive, Ethan. You're talking about thousands of ships. He turned to her, his calm gaze steady. I'm talking about what humans do best, using intelligence, precision, and courage. Strength is not always brute force. Sometimes one smart move changes the tide of battle. Outside, the skies erupted with movement. Zaryan fleets mobilized at Ethan's instructions, following his guidance rather than the Emperor's original plans. Small, agile groups of Zaryan ships wove through asteroid belts and magnetic storms. The Vorth pursued eagerly, assuming the humans would hesitate, and then it began. Hidden within the atmosphere, beyond Zaryan sensors, were human warships, sleek, black, and armed with advanced weapons technology. They had remained cloaked during the first wave, studying enemy tactics, learning weaknesses, waiting for the perfect moment. Now, they appeared like shadows of the void. Striking with deadly accuracy, missiles and energy beams tore through the Vorth formation. Ships that were supposed to be untouchable fell apart in moments. Yet, not a single civilian area was harmed. Not a single Zaryan vessel was lost. Every attack was precise, efficient, and controlled. Lysera gasped. Ethan, how are they so fast? So accurate? Ethan's eyes reflected the glow of battle. Humans learned to survive where nothing else could. Earth is full of storms, mountains, oceans, and deserts that would kill weaker species. We adapt. We calculate. And when necessary, we fight with precision. She realized for the first time that the man she had married, the man she had thought gentle and harmless, was far more capable than any warrior she had known. He was patient, calculating, and deadly when the situation demanded it. The battle intensified. The Vorth fleet tried to regroup, launching their heaviest weapons toward the city. Energy beams streaked through the sky, colliding with the shields of the Zaryan capital. Explosions rocked the outer rings of the city. Civilians screamed from shelters. Lysera's fear grew. They'll destroy everything, she cried. Ethan touched her hand gently. Not if we act carefully. Watch and help me coordinate the defenses. Your people can do incredible things when guided. Lysera nodded, and moved to relay his commands to the Zarian generals. To her surprise, the generals listened. They respected his calm authority, his precise knowledge, and the results of his earlier strategy. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Ethan's plan was bold. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, he instructed small Zarian and human teams to perform hit-and-run strikes on critical Vorth vessels. They targeted command ships first, communication arrays second, and supply fleets last. Each strike was swift and perfectly timed. The Vorth were thrown into confusion. On the ground, Lysera witnessed something more incredible. The Vorth had deployed elite troops, intending to capture the palace and the royal family. Ethan didn't hesitate. He activated human combat systems hidden within his armor, small nanofield enhancers that increased his strength. Agility and reflexes beyond what Zarians believed possible. He moved like a shadow through the palace halls, dodging traps, disabling enemy forces with precise movements, and coordinating defensive teams. Zarian guards, warriors considered the strongest in the Empire, watched in awe as Ethan neutralized threats faster than their eyes could follow. Lysera's breath caught. She had believed her husband was harmless. She had been wrong, Ethan, she whispered, her voice trembling. You're incredible. He looked at her briefly, a faint smile on his lips. We only do what is necessary to protect life, Princess. Strength is meaningless without purpose. Above the palace, the battle reached its peak. The human fleet had begun a coordinated orbital strike, disabling the Vorth warships systematically. Every move was precise, controlled, and efficient. Vorth ships exploded in the void, one after another. As their forces were systematically dismantled, the Emperor, who had previously mocked and doubted Ethan, now stood in stunned silence. The power of humanity was unlike anything he had ever seen. The Vorth dominion, which had once been feared across the galaxy, now fled in confusion and terror. Lysera could hardly believe her eyes. Her quiet human husband had changed the course of the war, saving not only the palace but the entire city. Hours passed and the skies slowly cleared. The second Vorth fleet had been routed, their retreat chaotic. Zarian ships hovered cautiously, checking for hidden threats. While the human fleet remained vigilant, Lysera approached Ethan as he returned to the palace balcony. His armor was scratched, his uniform marked with faint burns, but he was unharmed. He looked calm, tired, but resolute. You did it, she said softly, awe in her voice. You saved the Empire, the city, everyone. Ethan shook his head slightly. We did it together. Your people followed the plan. They fought bravely. Humans alone could not have achieved this. Lysera looked at him with new eyes. The man she had thought harmless was a master strategist, a fearless warrior, and a protector of life. She felt a mixture of pride, fear, and admiration. The Emperor finally spoke. Human, Ethan Cole, you have proven yourselves to be stronger than any of us imagined. His voice was firm but tinged with humility. Earth, humanity. You are no longer outsiders to our empire. You are allies. You are respected. Ethan bowed slightly. Thank you, Your Majesty. All we want is peace. But if peace needs defending, we will always be ready. Lysera felt a warm rush of pride for her husband. She remembered the quiet man she had first married, polite, gentle, and seemingly fragile. Now, he stood as the living proof that appearances could be deceiving. That true strength often hid behind calmness, patience, and intelligence. The city began to recover. Citizens emerged from shelters, cheering for their saviors. Zarian warriors repaired shields, assessed damage, and whispered in awe about the humans who had changed everything. Lysera walked beside Ethan on the balcony. Looking out at the recovering city and the stars where the defeated Vorth ships fled, she finally understood the depth of what he had shown her. You were hiding this from me all along, she said softly. Ethan shrugged, a faint smile playing on his lips. I never hid it. I simply waited for the right moment to show it. Power without purpose is meaningless, and I fight only when necessary to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Lysera nodded, her heart swelling with admiration. Then I understand now. You were never harmless. You were extraordinary. He looked at her, calm and steady. And you, princess, have the courage to trust in something unseen, to act even when unsure. That is why we succeed together. The twin suns shone over Valanther as the city celebrated quietly in relief. Humanity had shown the galaxy its true strength not through arrogance or domination, but through courage, intelligence, and quiet determination. Lysera held Ethan's hand, realizing that the man she had married was more than a diplomat or a husband. He was a protector, a strategist, and a symbol of human resilience. And the galaxy had just begun to understand that humans were a force that no one could underestimate.